Hello, my name is Jessica Chai, and welcome to the Max Loves Midland show.
Hey, I'm Kevin LaDuke, your weekly tour guide, and welcome back to the Max Loves Midland show, and I can't believe it, but we have made it to season number 2, and we are so excited to get this rolling. So with me today is a person that has a lot of titles for being in high school still. I'm here with Jessica Chai. Jessica is a senior at Dow High School. She's also involved with the Cultural Awareness Coalition, the Midland Area Youth Inclusivity Committee, the Midland Area Youth Action Council on my shirt here. And today we're going to talk a lot about Lunar New Year as well, where you sit as co-chair. So senior year of high school, pretty unbelievable. So what's that been like for you so far?
Oh my gosh, if I had to use one word, it would definitely be busy. A little bit stressful, a little bit uncertain because of, big looming future ahead of me. But other than that, it's been a great time. I love the senior phenomenon. Everyone's friends all of a sudden, even if we didn't know each other before. And yeah, there's a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good memories, a lot of new friends.
Well, and we were talking earlier, and I said it's always kind of funny because you're constantly probably getting asked this question about what's next. What do you want to do next? And that's got to be a little bit overwhelming. So as you set out on this path here, what are you looking forward to most? Because I'm not going to ask you what's next, but what are you actually excited for?
I'm definitely excited for a change. I'm excited to, for sure, meet new people, and looking forward, I'm going to be attending college in the fall, and wherever that may be, whatever I might be studying, I know I'm such a nerd, and I love learning, and I'm really grateful for the education that I've been getting so far, but I am super, super excited to take more difficult classes and have more of an interdisciplinary education. I'm super, super genuinely geeked out about that. So.
And I know you're pretty into learning, and you're really, really excited for these next steps. And I work with Sarah Jacobs Carter over at the Community Foundation, who you obviously know through the Youth Action Council. And earlier today, I was like, I'm interviewing Jessica later, and I got to get a little bit of a pulse. So what do you need me to know? And she just said so many fantastic things. She said outgoing, smart, incredibly involved. So looking forward to really big things. And I'm just really excited for you because I know that specific time period in your life, it will be special to you forever. So it's just really cool, and just wishing you the best. So what has surprised you the most about senior year?
Oh.
You mentioned that connection piece where everyone's all of a sudden friends, and I'm not telling all the Dow High kids to do this, but we camped out in our school parking lot and right on the lawn of the school a couple days before we graduated, and it was interesting just how everyone kind of connects in those final days, and you have this commonality that you didn't really even understand you had, and then it's kind of gone before you know it. So that's exciting. But anything else that's really been whoa, what's going on here?
I would say 100%. For some reason, and I'm really thankful for it, and I'm not going to question it at all, but the teachers have really been slacking off on the homework. They've been giving us less homework, and it's mostly project oriented, and a lot of it is focused on our senior upcoming tests for our IB classes and all that stuff, but it's very light in terms of workload compared to previous years, which I was not expecting because school's supposed to get harder as you go up, not easier, but I'm not complaining by any means, for sure.
Well, it's great. And I know that we said that we're going to touch on Lunar New Year, and we're definitely going to do that. And that's coming up on February 1st. And I know the entire community is really looking forward to that celebration. And but it takes a long time for this festival to come about. And there's a lot of people that really care about this. And obviously you extremely care about this a lot, sitting as co-chair of Lunar New Year. But this has kind of been a journey for you to really explore your cultural identity. And I think you told a really uplifting story about how you've really begun to connect to that. So what really led you to this space of wanting to be forthright and have this involvement in the community?
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely a really long story, and it doesn't start with me. It just 100% starts with my parents. My parents are both first-generation immigrants from China. They came to the United States for graduate school, and then they moved up to Midland, working for Dow, and they had me. And so I've grown up in Midland basically more or less my entire life. And I went to Jefferson, and I went to Siebert, and now I'm at Dow High. And growing up, especially I remember in the very early days, kindergarten, first grade, I was oftentimes the very first non-Caucasian face that my classmates had ever seen before in their life, just because of the Midland demographics. And, public school is the first time you're exposed to a large amount of people all at once. So I remember I used to get a lot of comments like, oh my gosh, Jessica, like, why is your face so flat? Or like, is it hard for you to breathe because like you don't have a nose bridge? Or like, can you see because your eyes are always squinted? It was just like a bunch of like weird little microaggressions like that. And they had a pretty significant negative effect on my self-esteem and my confidence. And given that there isn't a lot of curriculum representation or positive media representation of people from my background, it was really hard for me to feel like I fit in or had a space or like was on the same level as my classmates in terms of like future opportunities or like value in our school community. And so that was pretty negative feeling for me. But I remember my dad, who is a super, super involved member of the Chinese community here in Midland. He is a volunteer for the Tri-City Chinese community, Tri-City Chinese Association. He teaches Chinese class with them. He's always volunteering to do instrument showcases. He's a self-taught Chinese instrument dizi musician. And he was always a really good role model for me, even though I myself did not believe or feel proud of my identity or proud of where I came from. My dad was always like the example of someone that I wanted to be, who was super proud of that identity and was not ashamed of being an immigrant, was not ashamed of having a different cultural background. And I remember one of my very first core memories was when my dad essentially voluntold me that I had to perform with him for Chinese New Year one year. And he was like, Jessica, like, this is not a decision that you get to make. You have to do this. So he pulled me in and he taught me this song. He taught me how to sing it. And it was a song from his hometown in China, which is 张家界, which is the mountains that inspired the making of the movie Avatar. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, he forced me to learn the song, and he was like, I'm going to play my Chinese bamboo flute, the dizi, and you're going to sing this with me, and your brother's going to be there too, and we're all going to, like, this is going to be a good opportunity for you to showcase my culture. And me at the time, I was 6, the shyest kid ever, did not raise my hand in class, did not like to talk to people, let alone get up there on stage in front of hundreds of people and showcase the very part of my identity that I hated. So I was like freaked out. I did not know what I was doing. And I was really mad at my dad because I was like, Dad, you don't understand me. Like, why are you making me do this? All this stuff. But it ended up being something that, wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. And every year after that, he kept making me do that. And every year it was less and less of him forcing me to and more of me wanting to do it. And I remember 2 years after that, my Spanish teacher brought her culture club to that Chinese New Year celebration. And she recorded my performance and then pulled me out of class one day the next week. And she was like, Jessica, do you mind if I like share this video with like all of my Spanish classes? And Senora McMahon, bless her heart, I was so like blown away. I was so shocked. No one had ever like shown such a specific interest in my identity, in my culture, in such a positive manner before. It's like such a genuine curiosity that wasn't like why are you different, but like this is so cool, I want to share this with as many people as possible. And so that kind of threw me off, but I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, I guess. And she was like, good, because I already showed it like to all my classes. I was like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't really up to me. But yeah, I was really grateful for that, and that kind of opened my eyes to see that, hey, like, cultural awareness is something that can be super positive. And I remember how big of an impact my dad and that teacher had on me and my self-esteem and the way that I viewed my culture and my identity and my development as a person, as a leader, as a community member. And I just remember that feeling and wanting to do my best to make sure that I could help as many other people experience that as well and really feel that sense of belonging and, being a part of something greater than yourself. I think that's really, really special and part of fulfillment in life. And so I I just that those formative experiences in my early years really inspired me and are what continue to motivate me to be involved with things like Lunar New Year.
So you still remember that moment of singing that song? Do you remember the song itself?
Yeah. So the first one that I ever sang was called Xiao Bei Lo. It's about the weaving. It's a basket that's traditionally worn on the back to trek through the mountains, whether that's carrying food or water or even kids. Like kids get put in it. It's like a portable stroller, if you will, but it's on your back, so it's like a backpack. It's woven out of this like a reed material kind of thing. So yeah, that was the first song, and then I remember 2 years later, the song was called. Oh my goodness, it was. Wait, now I don't remember. Oh crap.
Well, it's fine. We've actually got your dad here. We're gonna do a performance right now. So
Oh,
come on.
okay. Yeah.
Totally kidding. Totally
Oh,
kidding.
guys, don't tell him.
No, he's watching for sure. I know it.
Yeah.
No, but we really appreciate you telling that story. And where were you doing these? Where were the performances at? Were these at River Days or where was this at?
Yeah, so they were, some of them were at River Days and some of them were at the Bullet Creek Auditorium where the Tri-City Chinese Association traditionally has held their Chinese New Year events. So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. And I think it's really inspiring. You tell this awesome story about, you say, what was your teacher's name?
Senora McMahon.
Okay, that's amazing. And, they really helped you out and put you in this space of feeling seen and heard, and that representation really matters. And now you've really taken this gift and you've given it back in very specific ways. And I know you've been a member of the Midland Area Youth Action Council now for about 3.5 years as you joined your freshman year, correct?
Mm-hmm, yes.
And at that same time, you got involved with the Midland Area Cultural Awareness Coalition, which kind of led to this interesting relationship with different people to now having, is this the third Lunar New Year, fourth? Is this the third one we've had?
I think, yeah, this is the third year.
Number 3, and that's absolutely incredible. So what did that journey look like to having a festival like this? And it's at Dow Diamond, a high baseball team plays there, and people that have played there have won World Series, and it's just really cool to have this programming that allows this type of representation in Midland. So where did that manifest from, and how did that evolve?
Yeah, so when I first joined the Midland Area Youth Action Council, I was just like a little baby freshman. Like I did not know what was going on. Like freshmen always get all the hate in high school. Like, ugh, But anyways, no hate. We love the freshmen. And I was super shy. I was, I obviously had an interest and a passion for being involved, but I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't really know like what exactly I could contribute. And the Youth Action Council really brought that out in me and showed me that that young people really do have a voice and a place in our community and have power to contribute, whether that be through grant making or committees or any of that. And at that point, I literally didn't know how committees or Robert's Rules or anything functioned, but Youth Action Council taught me that and also gave me the opportunity to showcase that, youth can contribute in ways that are beneficial to other people. And so through that, the Youth Action Council gave me the invitation and an open invitation to join the Cultural Awareness Coalition and sit on that as a youth representative for the Midland Youth Inclusivity Committee. And, I was a little nervous, but that was something that I was interested in. Obviously, cultural awareness is very important to me. So I was like, you know what? What can I lose? What could I possibly, get hurt from this? So I joined the Cultural Awareness Coalition. And at first, it was obviously still a very scary experience, being one of the only kids on that Zoom call or in that room among a bunch of other adults. But now the adults on the Cultural Awareness Coalition are some of my biggest role models that demonstrate how, you can really live your values no matter what career you do or no matter what organization, where you're from, what you do, what's important to you. You can always live out your values and you can be an example and a beacon of light and hope in our community regardless of what is happening. And the Cultural Awareness Coalition, it really showed me that you can bring all kinds of people together and that no matter from where you are or who you are, that those are all values that are important to a lot of people, and we can bring that cultural awareness piece to a bunch of other people. And so that's, sorry, I completely lost track of the question.
You're totally good. You're totally
Yeah.
good. And now we have this wonderful festival here, the Lunar New Year celebration that's going to be taking place at Dow Diamond. And as we can see here, it's going to be February 1st from 2 to 6. And there's a lot of people involved here. You got sponsors such as Dow, Midland Ford Lincoln, the Midland Area community foundation, obviously, as well, but you're working closely with the Midland Business Alliance to accomplish this. And you're working with my friend Emily Lyons over there to co-chair this. And a lot of work goes into this particular festival, and the reviews have just been incredible for the last couple years. So if somebody to ask, like, what is the Lunar New Year celebration, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that the Midland Lunar New Year is a community-wide event open to people of all ages, from all walks of life, no matter where you're from, or what your previous knowledge about Lunar New Year is, or no matter how old you are. It's really just an opportunity for people in our community to get together and share the joy and the celebration and the love that comes with such a holiday that's celebrated by so many different people across the world. It's, I think, the number one holiday celebrated, like by the most amount of people in the world. And so we've got lots of cool things happening. We've got food by local restaurants that showcase traditionally eaten cultural foods on that holiday. We've got performances ranging from K-pop dance groups to a lion dance. Very, very cool.
Not a line dance.
Not a line dance.
A
lion dance. Yes, that's correct. And we've got singing groups. We've got taekwondo demonstrations and all of this. And we have a fireworks show, free fireworks, wink, wink, show up. So it's really just an opportunity to share that joy and that excitement for the new year with a lot of cool opportunities. Yep.
That's great. And you touched on your experience with the Youth Action Council, and you talked a little bit about grant making and learning about Robert's Rules, and you learned so much about how philanthropy functions in a community. And I'm just curious, what are some of your takeaways that you've had from the Youth Action Council?
I would say the biggest one is that there is no real requirement for being a part of philanthropy or being a part of an organization like the Midland Area Youth Action Council. It doesn't really matter like what your previous experience is or what your background is. As long as you have an interest and a passion for helping other people, that's something that's possible. And I feel like that was a really big misconception that I had about philanthropy and giving back to community before the Youth Action Council. I had was that you have to get a degree in nonprofit management, or you have to become super rich and donate a bunch of money to some foundation and then you can help people, or in my mind, there were barriers to entry for that, right? But the Youth Action Council really broke that down for me and was there are resources available and you can be a steward of that resource as long as you are passionate about this and are willing to become involved. And I feel like that was a really empowering realization for me that I didn't even realize. The realization happened in my mind before I even acknowledged that. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you joined the Youth Action Council at a really interesting time, too. We're coming off the heels of a catastrophic flood during the COVID-19 pandemic as it continued to rage on, and COVID's still very prevalent in our community. But at that point in time, it's on the heels of the pandemic. And the Youth Action Council was really instrumental in assisting in a lot of things in the community. So are there any specific grants or specific programs that stuck out to you in your time with the Youth Action Council?
Oh.
I know you guys always help Santa get over the Tridge when it comes to the Midland Area Santa House, and that's always fun. But you're involved in so many different things. So anything what's that grant making like for you, where you have to sit down and analyze where funds are going to go to?
I would say there isn't one specific grant that comes to mind, but we get a lot of grants from teachers and groups of teachers that really are trying to improve the education experience for their kids, whether that's, and teachers don't get a lot of budget to purchase things specifically for their classroom or for their students. So it's always a really rewarding experience to get mini grants that come in that are just $500, but $500 can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And whether that's sensory bins for kids to help them focus and help them relax, whether that's special education teachers, they ask for specific tools that can help kids read and help kids focus, or that's books and resources for the whole class that the teacher didn't have within their budget to buy. Those kinds of things that are little and seem a little bit insignificant, in the grand picture of our community. I think education is so integral to a functioning, thriving community. And so just getting to be a part of that, making that education experience just a little bit better for even just a group of 30 kids has been really meaningful for me. Yeah.
And you have a lot of passion around Midland Public Schools and the type of education that you are able to obtain through Midland Public Schools. And I know your particular educational pipeline. It went Siebert, Jefferson, and now Dow High School. Can you just tell me your passion around Midland Public Schools and the type of education that you believe is provided through our school district?
Yeah, so I'm like first and foremost super, super, super grateful that my parents decided to come here and put me into Midland Public Schools. And I remember when we were choosing, when they moved up here and they were choosing where to live, they specifically chose a neighborhood right next to Jefferson Middle School because they wanted me to go to Siebert and Jefferson and then eventually Dow High. And at that point, like I didn't realize how significant that was. But looking back, like on my education experience, I'm super, super grateful. I think Midland Public Schools has first and foremost, like an amazing music program. I love being involved with the band and orchestra, and but yeah, so many opportunities, and I definitely would not be half the person I am today without the educational opportunities that Midland Public Schools has given me. And I think that like education itself is something that I'm super, super passionate about because education is the way that my parents like pulled them and their families out of poverty by getting an education and by coming to the United States. And education is the reason why my parents are here. They only even came to the United States because they were coming to graduate school and they wanted a better future for themselves and for their future children, which is me. And they've really instilled that passion for education in me because to me, education is really about like bettering yourself, growing yourself, learning how you can better contribute to your community. And education is the pipeline through which we break down the barriers of, assumptions about other people, about stereotypes, those things that kind of divide our society. Education is the way to break through that. And so that's why it's so important to me. And I'm so, so grateful for the educational experience that I've had that has been pretty comprehensive and through a wide range of passions and disciplines. So I'm super grateful for that. Yeah.
And you're obviously having a good time because you were involved in everything, it feels like. I mean, what do I have written down here? Dow High School band. You talked a lot about the music program, which is very important to you. And obviously, you told a story about singing ever since the age you were 6 years old in front of people. The student leadership program, Dear Asian Youth. Like you were kind of involved in so many different things that we haven't even mentioned yet. So your calendar is obviously very, very busy. But is there anything that we missed here? Or these are the areas you're touching on, correct?
Yeah.
And like, are these all your friends involved in this? Is that how you've met people? And these extracurriculars are extremely important to you.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, one of the cool things that I get to be a part of is I represent our school on the statewide student leadership organization called the Michigan Student Board of Delegates. And I would say I've met some of my closest friends through them. They don't live anywhere near Midland, like usually around 2 hours away. But it's just really important to me, and like a hallmark of my high school experience has been just meeting people that I never would have thought that I would even, be friends with. But, I think you learn the most from the people that you have the most differing experiences and perspectives with. So I'm really grateful for that experience to have met people from such diverse backgrounds and different geographic locations and like high school experiences. So, yeah.
We appreciate you so much for being an asset here to the Midland area and Midland Public Schools and everything that you've been involved in. We talked a little bit about your cultural background, and you mentioned that both of your parents, came here from China. So you still have family in China, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you get back to those roots often? Do you visit? What is your relationship like with your family that is in China?
Oh, this is a really good question. Back before COVID, my parents tried to get us back to China every 2 or 3 years, but airplane tickets are horrendously expensive. The flight is like anywhere from 14 to 17 hours. Yikes. Traveling with little kids is awful. I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad. I probably was not helpful to you at all. But I remember the first time I visited China was when I was 5 years old. My brother was 2. So, maybe I wasn't the worst culprit in that situation.
It's always easy to blame the little brother, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. No hate, though. Love him. He's my best friend. But anyways, first time I visited was when I was 5 and he was 2. And we tried to go back every 2 or 3 years since then up until COVID. And I remember in my first early visits to China, it was very much like, oh my goodness, the food here is so good. And I remember meeting my grandparents. My grandparents originally came. I met my grandparents when they came to the United States. They helped babysit us and help around the house for in the first year that I was born and the first year that my brother was born. But my grandparents hate it here because they don't know the language. They can't consume the media. They don't know how to drive. So they were just kind of stuck at home. They made amazing gardens, though. They built these amazing gardens. Trust me, if you ever need gardening advice, my grandparents are the ones to go to for that. But anyways, so when we went to China in the early years, it was very much like oh my goodness, this place is so different and there's so much good food and my family's here and there's look around, there's people who look like me, and that was a very bizarre experience for me because lived in Midland my whole life. And then COVID kind of put a stop to that for a little bit because, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. And I remember just being super worried for my grandparents all the time because, they're older, they have some health issues, and they were in a really vulnerable position with that pandemic. And also that meant that we couldn't visit them for many, many years. And at that point, my Chinese is still not incredibly good. I've taken Chinese classes since I was in elementary school, but there's still a language barrier. My Chinese proficiency is very much a elementary school level. I could probably, talk to a third grader or fourth grader pretty well, and I can understand most conversational, but there was definitely always a language barrier where I couldn't really talk about anything deeper than day-to-day life and surface level with my grandparents. But after COVID, the first time we visited was over winter break last year, and that was a really I don't know, impactful, I guess is the right word, experience to get to see my grandparents after so long, because the last time we had visited before that was 2019. So it was almost 5 years before we got to see them again. And I felt like I had grown up so much in that time period. And some of my cousins didn't recognize me. It was crazy. But just to see my grandparents, and I really tried to make a more intentional effort to connect with them about, some of the more deeper, I guess, and really valuable things in life. And I was asking about their childhoods and them growing up, and we paid homage, honor to our ancestors for the first time. We participated in this tradition where we go and we bow down at our ancestors' graves and it's traditionally you bow your head 3 times to honor your ancestors and everything that they've done for your family. And I found out this was actually pretty emotional for me. I realized that when I was born and when my brother was born, they inscribed our names in stone on my ancestors' graves as these are the living descendants. And that was so powerful for me because I didn't even realize that was something that happened, but it was just hey, no one's forgetting you. You're a part of this family, and this is where your culture and this is where your background is and your heritage, and these are your physical roots are here. Your name is physically inscribed on this stone. And we got to participate in that tradition. We've never gotten to do that before. And I think it was because my parents were you weren't old enough to understand it. And my family was bending the rules a little bit. You're supposed to do that on actual Lunar New Year. We were a month and a half early maybe, but they still had us do it anyways. And so that was really meaningful to me to get to deepen my relationship with my grandparents and participate in those traditions and heritage aspects that I feel I've missed out on a lot because of growing up here in the United States, because, my nuclear family, my parents and my brother were the only ones on this hemisphere.
So you talk about that, and we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and the separation that we all kind of felt from family. But specifically with everything around the COVID-19 pandemic, with you and your family being, specifically from China, that was a very interesting time period. And I couldn't imagine the fear of having, relatives in, a completely different country, especially when they're 15 hours away, where a lot of us were, 20, 30 minutes away from family, and we were still scared here. How do you feel like your experience was a little bit different, specifically with, your family being from China?
Yeah, I would say there's like a lot of levels to that.
And there's stigma involved too, obviously.
Right, yeah. I would say the separation aspect was like something that I was already used to at that point because I have grown up completely separately from my extended family. And so like it's always just been like my mom, my dad, and my brother, and like that's my core family. And so like the physical separation wasn't too difficult, but I would say like the media polarization on both ends was something that was like kind of it's nothing new, right? But the COVID-19 pandemic really highlighted that and brought that
Put
to
that
life.
microscope on it.
Yeah. And so it was a really interesting scenario to be in because me and my family, like me and my dad and my mom and my brother, we were always worried for my grandparents and for my cousins and for my aunts, my uncles. And we were like, are you guys okay? Like, and every time the virus would like spread to like a neighboring city or region, we would always get super scared and nervous about that. But meanwhile, on the flip side, our relatives in China, like specifically my grandparents on my dad's side, they were always like, they hated the fact that we were in the United States because of the way the media portrayed like, and obviously there was a rise in anti-Asian hate due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and they were seeing the videos of like people getting like beat up in the street and like, slurs or like go back to your country, like all that stuff. And that was the media that my grandparents were consuming. And so they were really upset and really, really, really worried for us, like our physical and emotional safety, being Chinese people living in the United States during this COVID-19 pandemic, even if it's in Midland. Like they didn't really know like the context of that or anything, but they were almost more worried for our safety and well-being than we were for theirs, which was
and it's
bizarre.
So different going both ways, because I'm assuming that when the pandemic, it was always very real, but when it became very real to us, you would probably have already been living that for months, correct? Like, was it kind of earlier for you that this was an extremely large concern?
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting because I remember that was my 7th grade year. And before there were any rumors about school getting out or anything like that, we were like, my grandparents and my family in China was hearing about this, and they were shutting down way quicker. And then I remember, like, specifically, the Tri-City Chinese Association Chinese New Year usually happens in like late January, early February. And I remember in 2020, when COVID was happening in China, the Chinese community in Midland was like, we're not doing the celebration this year. Like, it's not happening. And that was before the shutdown that happened, later in March. And already the events and stuff were getting canceled, and the community, like the Chinese community, even in the United States, was already getting very apprehensive and cautious about this whole pandemic. So I would say like it was just a little bit more foreshadowed with that. Yeah.
Well, happy you were able to get back. And you said it took all the way until winter break, 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So do you have another trip planned, or do you plan on going back and visiting soon?
Yes. So actually, once I graduate high school, I will be hopefully spending a little over a month in China this summer. Yeah.
Is that the longest period of time you've ever spent? And I mean, it definitely in your adult life, it's going to be the first period of time you're ever going to spend. But is that going to be a longer trip for you?
Usually, well, the 2023-2024 winter break trip, that was only 2 weeks because, winter break is sadly only 2 weeks. Yep. But traditionally, like my family has always tried to make an effort to go back for a minimum of 3 weeks to make the travel worth it, because really like there's minimum 4 or 5 days of just straight airplane, bus, like travel, all that stuff. So we usually try to make it for 3 to 4 weeks. So that's like a pretty standard China visit for my family. Yeah.
Awesome. And we talked about all these extracurriculars that you're involved in, and you mentioned one specifically that I didn't want to embarrass you too much on, but you mentioned a K-pop dance group. And when I pressed you a little bit on it, you're like, no, it's like not really my thing. It's more like I'm just kind of involved in it. And I just think it's cool when people go out and try new things and challenge themselves. And I shared with you when I was growing up, one of the first things that I worked on in terms of like a video production piece was like me and my buddies, we did like this ridiculous breakdancing video around my hometown of Beaverton and followed it up. We actually made one in Chicago as well.
Oh, wow.
Within those years, we were trying to find some commonalities here of something we could do a draft on. Here on Maxwell's Midland, we always do a draft, which myself and my guest, we just go through, 4 or 5 different things, and we can compare notes. And I don't think we're going to have to worry about stealing each other's things because the category that we kind of put it in is music from current time period. So I put myself in your shoes, 17 years old, and what may have been on my playlist. And at the time, it wouldn't have been Spotify. It would have been like an MP3 CD in my sweet Chevy Cavalier. I thought it was awesome. And what maybe we were dancing to at that time, and maybe some of the songs that could have been featured in one of those videos. So I'm going to go ahead, and we haven't compared notes at all. So I'm just curious. Mine's probably going to be very stereotypical, and it's going to sound very old to you. But I want to know. Go ahead. Let's give you first pick.
So first pick, Hide and Seek by Peter Elias? I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this popping up on like your Spotify Wrapped or?
Yeah, no. So I'm the kind of person that I have like probably 700 songs on one Spotify playlist, and that's the only playlist I ever play. So yeah, that's where it's from.
So mine are going to be a little bit different for sure. And these weren't necessarily my favorite songs in the time period, but more like what was moving the room. I've got Lollipop by Lil Wayne. So that's a little bit different than that.
It's fun.
Let's go. What's your second?
Must Have Been the Wind by Alec Benjamin.
Alec Benjamin's great.
Yes.
Very talented.
Yes.
I've got Kiss Kiss by Chris Brown and T-Pain. So have you heard any of these yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Like maybe if I heard it, I would know.
Okay.
But
Fair enough.
Don't sound familiar
Fair
to
enough.
me.
You were 2. So
Yeah. And then The Greatest by Billie Eilish.
Oh.
Yes. My friends put me on this song. Shout out.
Incredible
Yeah.
album though.
Yes. I do love the album.
Top 5 album of mine from the last couple years. Great record. I've got Knock You Down by Carrie Hilson, Kanye West, and Neo.
Fun. I've got That's So True, Gracie Abrams.
Gracie Abrams blowing up.
Yes. Love her. Did not know I loved her, but now I do.
We should have. So, do you know what makes Gracie Abrams interesting? Like, do you know who Gracie Abrams' dad is?
No.
So Gracie Abrams' dad is J.J. Abrams. He's a huge filmmaker.
Really?
Which of course puts her right in that Nepo baby category, which obviously is a hot word lately. But she's one of the ones that kind of supersedes that profile of parents. So pretty cool.
No, I feel like she's more.
Do your research.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go check out J.J. Abrams. The really, really long filmography. I think you'd be impressed. I've got Day and Night by Kid Cudi.
And I've got Dancing Through Life from the new Wicked soundtrack. Was the target audience for that musical.
So you just saw Wicked.
Yes.
Like, is it like where do you rank Wicked at in terms of your films?
Oh, wait, this is hard. Well, because my absolute favorite movie of all time has to be Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay. Great
But-
movie. Fantastic movie.
Yes, it hit the spot. It always makes me laugh and cry. But Wicked has to be top 5.
Really?
Yeah.
My girlfriend's a huge fan of Wicked as well. Saw it on Broadway, and her sister went as soon as they possibly could, and I made the promise I had to watch it at home. Great film. It's going to win a ton of awards. Looks incredible. I was not the target audience, but fantastic filmmaking.
Yeah, that would be me.
So I'll round it out here. My number 5. This one always made the room move a little bit. Let's go. Just Dance by Lady Gaga.
Okay.
So there's one you've heard of.
That one's fair, yeah.
And for the record, I purposely tried to pick songs that were no lower than top 20 from those 2 years. So so it's so we went for it. So maybe in the comments, I'm sure some people you go to school with are going to listen to this episode. So let me know if you've heard anything about any of these songs. So this is going to be a fun one to post online, and I'm really, really excited that you came and joined us. So just again, let's do another push on this here. We've got Lunar New Year coming up, February 1st, 2025 at Dow Diamond from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Cultural experiences, various cultural foods, traditional dance and performances, and you mentioned those fireworks. Everyone loves fireworks. But also there's a couple places where you can find a little bit more about Lunar New Year out. I know you guys have some social presence. On Facebook, it's Midland Lunar New Year. And on Instagram, it's Midland Lunar New Year. So are you doing socials on these too?
No, actually, we have a very talented social media team that's made up of volunteers. We've got Kirsten, who's heading it up. She works at My Michigan Healthcare, and we've got a bunch of students who are much more talented at social media than I am. So cannot take credit for it, but they've been doing an amazing job. So
yeah, I see stuff about it everywhere. Your graphics always look great. All the communications looks great, and I think it's really cool because it's just another representative piece. And you and I talked about that community vision statement of moving Midland towards being a community where all can thrive. And this is just another great example of collective action that occurs in Midland where a lot of people bring this all together. So I saw a push for volunteers today too on the Midland Young Professionals page. If people want to get involved with volunteering, do they just message one of these pages, or what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, so we have a sign-up genius for volunteers, and spots are filling up quick. So if you want to volunteer, now is the time to sign up for that. But the sign-up genius link is posted on the socials. We also have a website, midlandlunarnewyear.com, and the sign-up genius link is also linked there. So yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, Midland Lunar New Year, come out. Will they get to see a K-pop? Are you going to be a part of the K-pop dance at Midland Lunar New Year?
I fear the answer to that question is yes.
I am not fearful of the answer being yes. That is awesome. So I'm super proud of you. I know it takes a lot to come on one of these shows, especially when you're unfamiliar with the format and what's going on and what we're doing. But we hope you had a good time speaking with us today, and we're looking forward to breaking this piece down and getting it out to the people because I think they're really going to like it. But at the end of every single episode, we always ask everyone, when you look forward to the future of Midland, what are some of your hopes and dreams for this community?
I would say 100% like to continue to develop the education and the community that we have here. Just making sure that our education is as inclusive and as comprehensive as we possibly can get. Even like, K-12 seems like it's a very basic kind of given, but I think a lot of times, like, I see that we, like, being in school all the time, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, it's just, I see a lot of us, like, taking our education for granted, and I think that it's really meaningful to continue to push for making it better and making sure that our education is coming not only from our public school system, which is amazing, but also from communities, like, whether that be events or outreach or community leaders and people. I think bringing together that whole community to make sure that we're continuing education, not just in our young people, but in everyone, and making sure that we continue to be lifelong learners and, always do things that push us out of our comfort zone and continue to broaden our horizons. I think that in and of itself, like establishing that culture of always being willing and open to learn, is something that can make our world truly a better place just by being curious and being open and breaking down those barriers.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for continuing to support our community's vision statement.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and we hope to see you at Midland Lunar New Year.
Absolutely, and thank you guys for joining us here today. We love having you here at the Maxwell's Midland Show. Make sure you go to maxwellsmidland.com, continue to explore what we have going on. Thousands of events have been posted there so far. Last year, web traffic was more than doubling 2023, so we really, really, really appreciate all the energy around Maxwell's Midland, but we don't do it for the brand, and we don't do it for any reason other than it's a way for all of us to get together. It's a way for all of us to continue servicing our community, and we look forward to another great year of the Maxwell's Midland Show. Subscribe wherever you consume media. Maxwell's Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxwellsmidland.com.